I've been seeing a lot of TikToks why there's a shortage of black men in the church. And I'll tell you why from my perspective. As a black man that goes to church, that's involved in his church, I think the reason that there's a shortage of black men that are actually involved in going to church and doing the community events is because it requires a certain level of accountability. There's rules that come with playing at the church. And when I say playing, I'm not talking about, running around having a good time. When you're a community, it comes with rules, regulations, and accountability. And a lot of us black men, when we're out in the world, we don't want that accountability. You don't. I know men cheating on their wives. They want to cheat in peace. They don't want somebody to say, "Hey, bruh, you doing wrong by Susie Mae. You need to chill out. You shouldn't be doing that." When they out here running through women, they want to be able to run through women in peace and not have to answer to somebody saying, "Hey, man, if you don't have no intentions for her, leave her alone." And that requires a certain level of accountability that most men aren't ready for, right? When you get involved in community, iron sharpens iron. So now you have to answer to people. If you do community the right way in church, I'm gonna find the Bible verse. James 5:16. It says, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another in hopes to be healed. I'm paraphrasing, so you Bible scholars stay off my head. But when I say that, I'm not just talking about even with women, because I know that's what I referenced earlier. I'm talking about with the different things you deal with, whether it's lust, whether it's, there's a certain level of accountability that is required to become a better person. And I think change is internal, right? So a lot of men, in order to change, they have to look within and realize I'm not that good of a person. I'm not the person that I like to think I am. And especially as a black man, you have that I'm that nigga syndrome. You should at least, I'm saying? In my personal opinion, you have that certain level of confidence like, hey, I'm him. I'm moving in a certain manner that warrants that type of energy, right? I'm that guy. And then that change that you have to go through that breaks you down is hard work. I had to break myself down and realize I'm not as good of a person as I think I am. I was measuring my life with the amount of women I was sleeping with, the things I was doing, the amount of money I was getting, and not realizing none of that is of God, right? And if I was to die today, I was going to hell. I wasn't moving in the right manner. That type of peeling of the onion, that peeling back of the layers requires a certain level of intentionality that a lot of men aren't willing to put in. So it's easier to go into the world where, guess what? You can be surrounded by a lot of people. You could be surrounded because the world is jumping. It's jumping. And there's no accountability out there. You could be a crooked person. You could be a shady person. You can move in a manner that's self-serving and no one's holding you accountable, right? But when you come into the kingdom of Christ and you want to operate and move in a space that is going to make you a better person or put you in a better situation, it requires accountability. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to take a deep look within and see how you can move and operate better to serve the kingdom and not self-serve. And that piece right there just takes a lot of work. And that's why I feel like a lot of black men stray away from the church or take longer to get into that space because there's a certain level of vulnerability that's just not. It makes you feel naked. It makes you feel you're not covered in that season of your life. So it's just one of those things. I feel like that's why there's a shortage of black men in the church scene and the church space at this current moment. But I feel like if we do our work, the men that are in the church, not saying make it look cool, but I feel like for me, I used to think church is super corny. Not corny. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I used to think that the dudes involved in church were super corny, and you hear the women say that. The dudes that are involved in the church, they're usually cornier dudes. They're not the first round draft picks, yada yada. But I feel like dudes with a little bit of emotion or whatever the case may be, as we get involved, it's our job to reach and bring others with us. It's our job to invite our friends to church and not even do whatever you got to do. My pastor said something today, anything short of sin, get them in the house. You know what I'm saying? So it's I'll tell my brothers of Christ, I'll tell the guys that I know, hey man, there's women at my church, plenty of them. You know what I'm saying? Doctors, lawyers, whatever you into, there's plenty of good women at my church. Get you in the door, and whether you stay, what you do with that, that's on you. But I feel like we have to get more brothers involved in the church. That's our job, is to spread the good news, the gospel, So that's just my opinion, and that's why I feel like there's a shortage of black men in the church at this current moment.